It is the ending of another week and a new edition of the program, The Maze on ASO Television. I am Rosemary UKOKO-TEGA. The Maze is the summary of weekly activities at both chambers of the National Assembly. We hit your TV screen at this time every Friday. Glad to have you today. Coming up on today's program, inauguration of standing committees at the Senate. House urging the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and others to sensitize adolescent girls on the dangers of drug and alcohol abuse. This is in commemoration of the 2023 International Day of the Girl Child in Nigeria. Stay with us for all details. We are live on DSTV channel 392, StarTimes TV channel 127, Free TV channel 507, on the UHF band on channel 38. You can check out all editions of The Maze on our YouTube channel, ASO Radio and Television.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, StarTimes Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
You're watching The Maze on ASO Television. We begin today on the floor of the Senate. Topping the week's proceeding, there was inauguration of standing committees to officially commence other legislative activities aside plenary sittings of the Red Chamber. Here are some excerpts with committees' chairmen speaking on their assignments. We go first with Chairman, Senate Committee on Special Duties, Senator Shehu Kaka. Here.
We are going to discharge our duties without fear or favor, affection or ill will. When it is time to oversight any ministry, we will let you know. You will have open conversation with us. You will engage each and every member of the committee for you to now know what the committee is up to and what we are doing. And then we want to also enlighten Nigerians out there to know the policies and programs of the federal government vis-a-vis the responsibility of senators in a quest to ensure that they oversighted the various MDAs under Special Duties Committee. On this note, I once again thank you for gracing this inaugural meeting. It is my singular honor and privilege to inaugurate the Special Duties Committee while wishing each and every one of us the very best of luck. I also implore on you to put your very best and solicit for your support to achieve the mandate of this committee. Thank you and God bless you all.
Another issue that aroused concerns of senators within the week is the setback suffered by ginger farmers in Kaduna State as a result of an outbreak of fungi pathogens infection which destroyed over 2,500 hectares of farmlands estimated at 10 billion naira across 7 local government areas of southern part of the state. Senator Sunday Marshall Katung, representing Kaduna South Senatorial District, moved the motion on the subject that attracted wide debate from lawmakers. The Senate, as part of ruling, mandated National Emergency Management Agency NEMA to, as a matter of urgency, provide palliatives to the affected farmers. We have here mover of the motion first, contributions of senators, then to ruling of President of the Senate.
The Senate notes that the ginger has been grown in the southern part of Kaduna State since about 1927, and it has steadily increased in its importance as a valuable commodity over the intervening years. The Senate further notes that Kaduna State ranks the highest in ginger production in Nigeria, contributing to Nigeria's place as one of the largest producers of ginger in the world, with a production average of more than 300,000 tons during the 5-year period from 2014 to 2018, and a global market share of about 11%, trailing only India. Cognizant that as a subset of the agricultural sector, ginger production has a significant impact on revenue generation and farmers' income, thereby reducing the rate of poverty amongst the local farmers of southern Kaduna and the country at large. Also cognizant that apart from its revenue-generating potential, the consumption of ginger has many health benefits ranging from the prevention of stomach ulcers, the reduction of nausea and vomiting amongst pregnant women, to chemotherapy treatment for cancer patients. Worried that the 2023 ginger season in southern Kaduna has suffered a significant setback due to an outbreak of fungi pathogens infection, destroying over 2,500 hectares of farmlands estimated at 10 billion naira across 7 local government areas of southern Kaduna, thereby significantly threatening Nigeria's position on the world chart of ginger production. Also worried that this devastating and unprecedented ginger pandemic affects Nigeria's non-oil export performance and is already affecting the lives of many individuals within the affected communities of southern Kaduna because ginger is the source of livelihood. Disturbed about the public health risk of this deadly disease because research has revealed that organisms that affect plants may develop some sort of host jumping with mutation or development of the mechanism switching over to the host and the pathogen that was earlier infecting plants changing and affecting human beings. The Senate accordingly resolves to mandate its Committee on Agricultural Production and Rural Development to interface with the hierarchy of the National Agricultural Quarantine Services and the Supervisory Ministry, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, towards conducting an immediate on-the-spot assessment tour of all affected areas of the ginger pandemic in southern Kaduna State. Call on the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention to immediately coordinate surveillance systems to collect, analyze, and interpret data on this disease towards the prevention of further spread of the pythoniosis. Also call on the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to immediately and as a matter of particular urgency provide palliatives to the affected ginger farmers of southern Kaduna whose means of livelihood has been completely crippled by the disease that has destroyed their production of the rhizome. Also make any further directives as deemed expedient in the circumstances.
Mr. President, I rise to add my voice to the need to protect producers of ginger in southern Kaduna and to support every effort towards resolving the challenge posed by this disease on ginger production. The irony of this situation in Nigeria is that while some people are talking about oil and gas as a major source of revenue to their own community, other parts of the country have agriculture as their basis of survival economically. So it makes a lot of economic sense for us to also add our weight and support our brothers in Southern Kaduna who are producers of ginger. You know that there is a call for shift now from petrodollar economy to agriculture. So providing this kind of support to agriculturists or farmers of Southern Kaduna would therefore add weight to the shift of this country towards agriculture. And I support this motion in its entirety. Thank you very much, Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues.
Mr. President, I wanted to add that Kaduna South and the farmers of Kaduna South are contributing towards the global ginger production. And it is interesting to note that Nigerian ginger is highly rated in the international commodity market, most particularly in the Middle East and the Far East. Efforts have been made to invest in the value chain, the ginger value chain, knowing that the application of ginger in pharmaceutical, food, and nutritional industry is immeasurable. So therefore, I will appreciate that we accord this motion the urgency and the necessity it requires so that the required steps can be taken to salvage the situation. Especially diseases that affect plants are almost likely to transmute and affect human beings, especially in the food value chain. It is on this premise that I want to urge that this motion should be accorded the urgency and the priority it deserves so that the ginger sector will not be hampered, and especially now that the season is coming, our farmers in Kaduna will have cause to smile. Thank you, sir.
I rise to support this motion, heavily moved by Senator Marshall. Southern Kaduna is the highest producer of ginger in Nigeria, and by extension, the third or the second producer in the whole world. I know that this disease has affected the lives of individuals in the local community. Some people, on hearing about the disease, almost collapsed. If you go to the Southern Kaduna today, a lot of homes have been shattered by this disease because their economy has been affected drastically. So I call upon my distinguished colleagues to support this motion so that this disease can be stopped.
Now, apart from health issues around this very important motion, is also rooted deeply in economic matters. Ginger is one of the products that is meant for export from Nigeria, from Kaduna South, from Nigeria. It's been known historically, and they are very experienced in this production of ginger, one of the highest qualities, like Senator Babangida alluded to that. But the area I'm trying to emphasize has to do with the value of our Naira today. If we improve that sector and export, the moment we earn more foreign exchange, the value of our Naira will be impacted positively. And that's the area I would like that we give serious attention to this motion for this economic benefit. Attached to that, Mr. President, is the disease itself. I think when researching into getting how it came about, let them look at the biological source of that in security, with some security eyes on that. It has not happened before. This is the first time this particular type of disease, but the impact is very, very drastic. So when looking into it, let's let the relevant authorities look deeper into the source of that disease, how it can be controlled, and then eventually that the economy of Kaduna South will be improved, Kaduna State and Nigeria. And my concern will be earning effects to strengthen the size of the Naira and the strength of the Naira. Thank you, Mr. President.
I want to sincerely thank the mover of this motion. But I think I will come from the flank of our budgetary provision. Since we are clamoring for a very serious support for non-oil export promotion, and ginger production is one key area that generates a lot of employment and a lot of funds as well into our society. To what extent are we proactive towards research and development in some of these cash crops, developing it and finding a way that instead of reacting to these kind of situations, we now tend to be more proactive in providing solutions ahead of time. Mr. Senate President, the agric research institutions, if you go through the budget, you find out that the provision, what we provide for those institutions is so infinitesimal, so little to even carry out a particular one little research or the other. I think, thank God that this motion is coming quite ahead of the time we're expecting to have the national budget. I'm in full support that we should stem off strength of these research institutes so that they can research ahead of time and look into the critical areas and develop the necessary vaccines and medicine to tackle this situation. Then, when it happens, we now react instead of becoming proactive. Therefore, I'm fully in support of this, and I will add an additional prayer when we get to that point to make sure that we support with a lot of budgetary provisions as well.
Thank you, distinguished. Mandate its Committee on Agricultural Production and Rural Development to interfere with the hierarchy of the National Agricultural Quarantine Services and its supervisory ministry, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, towards conducting an immediate on-the-spot assessment tour of all affected areas of the ginger pandemic in Southern Kaduna. Those in support of this prayer, one say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, call on the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention to immediately coordinate surveillance systems to collect, analyze, and interpret data on this disease towards the prevention of further spread or pythanosis. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, call on the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to immediately and as a matter of particular urgency provide palliatives to the affected ginger farmers of Southern Kaduna, whose means of livelihood have been completely crippled by the disease that has destroyed their production of the rhizome. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, make any further directives as deemed expedient in the circumstances. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me quickly thank our brother for a very beautifully worded motion that he has just presented. And to say that the distinguished Senator Khartoum Sunday Marshall, some of the acronyms and wordings that you use were very, very professional, and the prayers were well couched. is something we must take seriously, and the clerk of the Senate will communicate the decisions of this Senate to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and all relevant agencies to look into this issue and tackle the issue effectively, particularly to preempt future occurrences. And then, of course, it's also important to ameliorate the sufferings of the farmers. That's why it's important. That's why I said the prayer was well couched, so that NEMA can also move in there and provide palliatives to them because of the fact that they've lost their means of livelihood due to this disease. Thank you, my colleagues, also for your contributions.
The southern Kaduna part of Nigeria, according to research, ranks second globally, trailing only India in ginger production. A similar topic came on the floor of the House under motion of urgent national importance. Members, in adopting the motion standing in the name of Mr. Amos Dan, called on the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to take immediate and decisive action to combat the destructive fungal disease plaguing ginger cultivation, particularly in Kaduna and other ginger-growing states. Here is how the motion was received on the floor during plenary.
The House notes that ginger is a high-value cash crop that can generate significant income for farmers and has a strong demand in both domestic and international markets, making it a profitable crop for cultivation. Also, medicinal value of ginger became handy during the COVID-19. Ginger was used as both preventive and curative measures to the pandemic and still being used by many families across the world for different purposes. Further note that ginger is a global traded commodity and the demand is increasing globally. Farmers in Zangon Kata Federal Constituency and the entire southern Kaduna have contributed to the export market and earned foreign exchange for the country. Aware that some local government within the southern Kaduna, where ginger is the center of production, where bulk farmers used to convert from different parts of the country and the entire world to purchase such crop, because ginger from this area is considerably the best in the world. Further aware that the disease, which started in July, some farmers in combating the disease caused by various fungal pathogens had applied insecticides, pesticides, but their effort did not yield any meaningful result, as pests continually destroy the farms. Concern that the fungal disease affecting ginger production in southern Kaduna has become an epidemic, which has caused the farmers to lose over 10 billion worth of ginger sales, and the disease is still rapidly destroying their crops. Some farmers slumped and died after coming face to face with the condition of their ginger farms. Further concerned that the situation has affected their yield after they had sunk billions of naira. Some of these farmers got loans through banks, cooperative societies, well-spirited individuals, with the promise that after harvesting their crops, these loans will be repaid. Disturbed that many families depend on ginger for their livelihood and education of their children. Therefore, with the present situation, many children may not be able to return to school, and this may affect the import earnings for the country. Worried that in the next farming season, it will be very difficult for farmers to get ginger seedlings. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, resolve that number one, urge the Federal Ministry of Agri to urgently ensure that adequate measures are put in place to combat and prevent the fungal disease affecting ginger farming in southern Kaduna. Call on the federal government to establish Ginger Research Institute and branches of Root Crop Research Institute in southern Kaduna. Further urge the Ministry of Finance, Central Bank of Nigeria, and other relevant government agencies to urgently support the farmers for the immediate and long-term losses. Number four, also urge the Federal Ministry of Agri to urgently consider the need to see to the distribution of improved ginger seedlings to the affected farmers. Finally, mandate Committee on Agri.
Who will take your seat now?
Institutions, agri-production, finance, banking, commerce, and legislative compliance to ensure its compliance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable.
We move quickly to some other top proceedings and resolutions of the House. First on this roll is the commemoration of the 2023 International Day of the Girl Child on the theme, Invest in Girls' Rights, Our Leadership, Our Well-Being. The lawmaker, Khalifat Ogbara, moved the motion highlighting a number of issues concerning the girl child in Nigeria. Top take from this motion is the need for the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA), National Orientation Agency (NOA), and other stakeholders to initiate ways of educating and sensitizing adolescent girls on dangers of drug and alcohol abuse. The lawmaker's motion.
The House notes that 11th of October every year is globally celebrated as International Day of the Girl Child. And this year's theme is Invest in Girls' Rights, Our Leadership, Our Well-Being. It provides a platform for the global community to understand the disadvantages of the girl child that she faces in life. The House also notes that International Day of the Girl Child is a day adopted by the United Nations to remind young girls of their uniqueness, strength, and prowess. It is a day set aside to address issues such as early or girl-child marriage, violence against girls, rape, child molestation, education deprivation, and all other issues faced by girls. The House is aware that the International Day of the Girl Child acknowledges the importance, power, and potential of the girls around the world by spotlighting other issues such as poor learning opportunities, discrimination, tackling issues posed by stereotypes, and exclusion of children with disabilities and others living in marginalized communities. The House is aware that girls have the right to a safe, educated, and healthy life. Investing in girls' leadership includes creating space and platforms for girls to raise their voices at every level of policy making. The House is aware that in most countries, patriarchy and power dynamics affords boys comparative advantages compared to girls in most domains. The last survey from UNICEF revealed that 18.5 million children are out of school and 60% of them are girls. As a result of this, girls are left behind across multiple dimensions. The House is worried that
She's protected, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is about our children.
You people should not.
Our future.
Excuse me, honorable member. We should allow her to speak. And she's well protected.
Thank you, Mr.
Please.
Speaker.
And the House must be heard in silence.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable Kafila, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
The chair is protecting you fully.
Thank you, sir. The House is worried about the high number of out-of-school girls that engage in drugs and other vices. Throughout history, girls have been systematically held back and undervalued in society. The House is informed that investment in critical steps, such as the girls' rights under the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, will help to fast-track the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The House is informed that the current trend in Nigeria reveals that young girls who are sexually abused by their parents and guardians return back home to the same house where they were abused after police intervention. The House resolves, my prayer, sir, that we should urge the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, and National Orientation Agency and other stakeholders to initiate ways of educating and sensitizing girls on the dangers of drug and alcohol abuse in commemoration of the 2023 International Day of the Girl Child in Nigeria going forward. that we also urge the ministries, departments, and agencies that are saddled with the responsibility of training and empowerment to ensure compulsory vocational skills acquisition training for girls to keep them engaged and productive, to keep them away from drugs and other vices. We further urge the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Miriam Babangida National Center for Women Development and National Agency for Prohibition and Trafficking of Persons, NAPTIP, to build a well-furnished rehabilitation center, shelter homes for sexually abused survivors across the 36 states and FCT. That we urge the Federal Ministry of Education to drastically reduce and eradicate the number of out-of-school children by ensuring compulsory free education for girls across the country in primary and secondary schools. That we should mandate Committee on Women Affairs to engage with all relevant NDAs to ensure compliance. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Respected colleagues, I so move.
The House, in adopting another motion, urged the Road Safety Commission to exercise their powers under the Federal Road Safety Commission Act 2007 and arrest and prosecute persons who run against traffic light signals and violate other road traffic regulations. A member, Mr. Ogarigwe Idoma Enwo, had moved a motion compelling road users to obey traffic light signals and road traffic regulations in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja.
Mr. Speaker and my respected colleagues, the House notes that traffic control lights are signaling devices placed at road intersections, pedestrian crossings, and other locations to control vehicular and pedestrian traffic and are designed to regulate the flow of traffic and prevent accidents. Mr. Speaker, concerned that rather than regulate the flow of traffic and prevent accidents, motorists in the Federal Capital Territory, by commission or omission, constitute hazard to other road users by refusing or neglecting to obey traffic signs, and particularly the amber, red, and green signs displayed on the traffic control lights. Mr. Speaker also knows that the greatest violators of the traffic control light signals are so-called VIP vehicles, bullion vans, motorcyclists, dispatch riders, tricyclists, and taxi cab vehicles. Concerned that data published by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, currently has the highest incidence of car crashes in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, aware that in most jurisdictions, technology is deployed to track and arrest violators of traffic rules and regulations. Mr. Speaker, we resolve as follows. 1. We urge the Road Safety Commission to exercise their powers under the Federal Road Safety Commission Act 2007 and arrest and prosecute persons who run against traffic light signals and violate other road traffic regulations in the FCT. 2. We also urge the Federal Capital Territory Administration to deploy technology that will track and arrest violators of traffic rules and regulations in the FCT. Thirdly and finally, Mr. Speaker, to mandate the Committee on Federal Road Safety Commission and the Federal Capital Territory to ensure compliance. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Resolutions in the motion seeking employment of corps members who were victims of election violence into the Civil Service or Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) were also adopted by the House within the week. This is standing in the name of Mr. Emmanuel Ukpong Udo.
The House notes that the Independent National Electoral Commission held the Presidential and National Assembly elections on February 25, 2023, followed by the Governorship and House of Assembly elections on March 11, 2023 and April 15 for supplementary elections. Also notes that the Independent National Electoral Commission co-opted over 200,000 youth corpers as ad hoc staff to assist in the administration of these elections, thus constituting approximately 80% of the INEC ad hoc staff. I move to the prayers now, Mr. Speaker. The House resolves to urge the National Youth Service Corps, NYC, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to produce a comprehensive list of corps members that participated in the last 2023 elections and are victims of election violence. The House also urged the Federal Character Commission and the Federal Service Federal Civil Service Commission to review and subsequently consider employing victims of election violence into public service of the Federation. And the House also mandates the committees on federal character, public service, and electoral matters to ensure compliance. Right Honourable Speaker, my respected colleagues, I so move.
The House also, through another motion, urged the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to implement monetary policy adjustments to stabilize the currency, address speculative activities in the forex market, and increase the withdrawal limit of the naira to reduce the pressure on dollars and other foreign currencies. A member from Bauchi State, Mr. Ismaila Dabo, moved the motion. Here.
Need for the Central Bank of Nigeria to address the impact of falling naira against the dollar and other currencies on the Nigerian economy. The House notes that in June 2023, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, announced changes to the country's foreign exchange market. That is, the foreign currencies can now be bought and sold at rates determined by the market and not by the central bank. Also note that the President's intention is to allow market forces to determine naira value, but the alarming exchange rate has impacted Nigerians' economy, causing untold hardship due to increased demand for dollars and dollars shortage. Aware that about 90% of Nigeria's total export earnings are from oil, which is the mainstay of the country's economy. But changes in the price of oil around the world have a big impact on the country's foreign exchange market. This explains why naira has continued to depreciate. Recognize that Nigeria's foreign exchange inflows are lagging despite unification in June, with high demand for foreign currency and limited access to official markets, incentivizing black market purchases. The naira has lost a great percent of its value against the dollar, falling from $778.602 per dollar as of September 26, 2023, and nearly 1,000 or more per dollar now at the parallel market, making it the first time Nigeria has liberalized the foreign exchange market. Worried about inflation and the cost of living, depreciating naira makes imported goods more expensive, leading to higher inflation rates. This increased cost of living disproportionately affects the most vulnerable citizens as they struggle to afford basic necessities, which are now glaring across the country. Also worried about the reduction in investment as the value of the naira continues to lose value and depreciates against the dollar and other foreign currencies. Foreign investors may be deterred from investing in Nigeria, fearing potential currency losses, which is capable of stunting economic growth and hindering the creation of new job opportunities for unemployed Nigerian youth. Aware that a weaker and depreciating naira could increase Nigerians' external debt service.
Okay, go to the prayers.
I'm almost done, sir. Just one paragraph. Potential reducing government spending on critical sectors like healthcare and education. Also aware that Central Bank of Nigeria frequently uses its foreign reserves to stabilize the naira, but this can deplete its reserves, making the country vulnerable to economic shocks. Cognizant that addressing Nigerians' financial challenges requires collective responsibility from all stakeholders, including Parliament, which has been the voice of the common man. Resolved to 1, urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to implement monetary policy adjustment to stabilize the currency, address speculative activities in the forex market, and increase the withdrawal limit of Naira to reduce pressure on dollars and foreign currencies, despite the regulation. Also, 2, urge the federal government to formulate policies and structural reforms to reduce corruption, promote economic diversification within the nation's economy. 3, further urge the federal government to promote exportation and export and reduce importation by enhancing foreign investors' confidence on its fiscal and monetary policies. 4, mandate the committees on banking regulations and national security and intelligence to interface with the Central Bank of Nigeria with the purpose of initiating compliance strategies, and also mandate the Committee on Banking Regulation to investigate the use of dollars and other foreign currencies as legal tender for domestic transactions in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, this is 200 Naira CD, 200 CD is of Ghana, is equivalent to 14,800 Naira of Nigerian money. Yeah, just additional to it. So, sir, I saw move.
No, you can't add it. You can't add.
Okay.
It's a motion.
Rise to second this very, very important motion ably moved by my colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
It will be good to have a little bit of engagement on this. So I'm going to take 2 from here and 2 from there, and then we'll move on. All right? Let me allow Honorable Kuye to...
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this beautiful motion, ably moved by my colleague and my friend. Mr. Speaker, this is a most timely brought motion, and the mover must be commended for the courage and the leadership shown, particularly the impactful and sensitive leadership that he has displayed in the body of the motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, Section 2 of the Central Bank Act provides that the central bank shall be responsible for ensuring monetary and price stability in the country. And 2D speaks to the promotion of a sound financial system in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, Section 15 of the Central Bank Act is very clear and unambiguous as to the kind of currency that should be spent in Nigeria. It says that the only currency that should be used for any form of transaction in the country in Nigeria should be the Naira. Mr. Speaker, today, if you want to fly some of the foreign airlines, they charge you in dollars. Mr. Speaker, it is illegal and it should be stopped. Mr. Speaker, in some high-end markets, in the real estate, in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, they charge dollars. Mr. Speaker, this is criminal. It should not be allowed, it should be stopped. And this is what this motion is talking about. There is responsibility that must be carried out. In some schools, private schools in Nigeria, they charge you dollars. I don't know where that is done except in Nigeria. And these are serious matters that should be looked into.
Okay, round up. Others want to speak.
So I just want to say that commend the mover and to support that this motion be supported by all. I so second, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I will just go to prayer number 4. Where he talks about exportation. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to urge the federal government to encourage agriculture in any way possible, because what is putting pressure on our currency today is that we are import dependent. Nigeria is depending so much on everything, we import everything into this country. And we need to encourage agriculture by all means. So I thank you, Dabo, for this wonderful motion. And for the central bank, like the last speaker said, today if you want to travel out of this country, you are forced to pay in FX, you are forced to pay in dollars. And when you compare what we are paying here in Nigeria and what you pay from outside the country, it is unimaginable, Mr. Speaker. You find out that they charge us equivalent of about 3-point-something million naira here to buy an economic ticket to travel to for a 6-hour flight. But those coming from the UK, for instance, Mr. Speaker, pay far, far less when they are paying in pound sterling. So these are issues we must look at, Mr. Speaker, to be able to see how we can merge these things and unify these things as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you very much.
One of the major dilemmas that I think we have as a country is that most economic policies that work elsewhere appear to have difficulty in thriving when they are introduced here. I remember very well, Mr. Speaker, that when the issue of floating the naira, the naira, became an issue towards the end of the last administration, major economists recommended, including the former CBN governor, His Royal Majesty Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, recommended the floating of the naira as a panacea to solving the dwindling fortune of the naira. Unfortunately, we do not have measures put in place to ensure that we have enough inflow of forex. And like he rightly said, we're an import-dependent economy. The government, I think, should be more urgent in doing this. The central bank governor has been confirmed now for almost 2 weeks. We have not had a policy statement from the central bank governor on this very, very important subject matter. Now, the market responds to policy measures, responds to statement from the highest financial institution in the country. So if we have a situation where it appears that we are folding our hands, it will continue to deteriorate. As of this morning, it's 1,006 naira to $1. The 1,006 naira, 110 naira to $1. The Ghanaian currency, Liberian currency, every other currency in West Africa today, values more higher than the naira. I think there is an emergency on our hand, and it's high time that those who are in charge of our policies act in the manner that shows that they know there's an emergency.
Thank you very much.
Lastly, from the House, we bring you a little of a session between the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Benjamin Kalu, and some women groups who came visiting also earlier in the week. The Deputy Speaker, while receiving his guests, stated possibility of the House revisiting the 5 gender bills rejected at the last assembly, including those not accorded presidential assent.
The concerns and that of other women across Nigeria on the constitutional amendment. The 10th Assembly has the opportunity to further the rights of women and improve female participation in the political space. But this is dependent on all stakeholders playing their role through advocacy for the 5 gender bills that recommend 35% affirmative action for women, political party administration, expand the scope of citizenship by administration,
reserve a quota for women in executive cabinet position, reserve states for women in federal and state legislative houses, and expand state citizenship rights and all other such bills. It means that it's not only the responsibility of the House of Representatives, it is the responsibility of the citizens. The House of Representatives did not only elect themselves to come to the House of Representatives, they are representatives of the citizens. So the office of the citizens of Nigeria have a role to play.
The women groups were on an advocacy visit to the Deputy Speaker. Well, while a couple of other issues bordering on general infrastructure, flood-related disasters, as well as insecurity as affecting states across the country came on the floor of both Senate and the House within the week, the maize could only feature the much as could fit into the time for the program. And for today, it is here we draw the curtain. Thank you. Till we meet again next week, Friday at 8 p.m. In the meantime, watch all editions of The Maize on our YouTube channel, ASO Radio and Television. I am Rosemary UKOKO-TEGA.